Welcome to Rates and Barrels. It's Thursday, April 17th. Derek VanRiper, Sarris, Trevor May here with you. On this episode, we have the return of Spencer Strider. We'll dig into what looked different for him the first time back out on the big league mound on Wednesday against the Blue Jays. Eno was part of a co-written piece at The Athletic looking at the gap between hitting development and pitching development possibly closing thanks to some new tools and different things. We'll dig into that story. We're going to talk about Jacob Wilson and have our How I'd Pitch This Guy segment focusing on trying to get out one of the guys that strikes out less than anybody in the league. It's a bit of a unique challenge, so we'll dig into that. And time permitting, got a mailbag question about Gavin Williams, who had a rough outing against the Orioles on Wednesday. So we begin with the return of Spencer Strider. He's back from internal brace surgery. And, the velo is down a little bit, which I think comes with the typical caveat. Well, it's the first start back off of an injury, so maybe we're not going to get all the way there right away. But what else looked different to you guys as you watched Strider yesterday, Trevor? Was there anything that caught your eye, something that he had changed considerably since we last saw him in a competitive situation?
Other than just like maybe the stuff lagging a little bit, because the big caveat, being away for a while and not pitching, it's less about like not remembering what it's like than it's just the intensity that you want to bring out there. So I would give him a couple in the big leagues before we start to talk about maybe if this is just what Strider is now or what have you. But it did look he looked like he was attacking guys the same way that he attacked them before. He was going right to the slider right away. He wasn't worried about that. I think that the interesting thing is going to be watching him see where he can, fit the curveball and the changeup in, because I just don't think that's something that he's just been mega power, like pitching like a reliever for 6-7 innings. And that's only going to last so long anyways, even without the surgery. But you can see just a little bit. He's a smart guy. I think he's going to make the adjustments. No problem. It's just going to be a learning process. Probably the game's going to have to tell him how to change some of that stuff. So I did see a little bit of like looking at his face. He's just like spinning a little bit like, okay, so how can I use the changeup in this situation? 2-1 count to a righty or something. Like, is this where I want to go and start to work this stuff in? Because his natural inclination is I get crazy whiff rate on my forcing fastball. And my slider is going to be my out pitch, and those things aren't going to change. And he's right; those are going to be his two best pitches, probably. I doubt the other two are going to be better. But he's going to need to set them up more instead of just like bulldoze people like he has before.
I think there's some in the pitch movements. There's some difference, and I agree with Trevor that maybe it's going to be a 1-game blimp, or it'll take a little time, but. I kind of think that you've done all this work to get back, that this is probably the shapes he wanted, to some extent. And so the good news is that the changeup is way better. And I know that in terms of execution, in terms of how many he threw and what it looked like, he only threw like 6 of them, I think, and probably like 3 of them were like legit ones and 3 were just bad ones. So he's not on top of, but it is a different shape. It definitely has more drop and less fade, less sort of arm side movement to it. So I would assume that maybe he had switched from a 2-seam changeup grip to a 4-seam, or maybe he's splitting it to some degree, because this has the potential to be his best changeup. And that's the good news. The bad news is the slider is different too. The slider used to be a kind of power slider, gyro slider that did not have that much horizontal movement, did not have as much vertical drop as other pitches. And so it was not unique, but it was a rarer slider. If you look at the pitch movement charts on Savant, his slider now is much more conventional, in that it has more drop and more arm side movement, and so that could theoretically make it worse against left-handed hitters. The more horizontal movement you have, the general rule with sliders is the more horizontal movement you have on the slider, the worse it is to throw to an opposite-handed hitter. So could he, with the new curveball and the new changeup, become more of a conventional pitcher that's like, throws more changeups and curveballs to lefties. That's how he used it in the game. Maybe he's sees some advantage in that. But it's not quite the same Strider. It's not it's not the same fastball velo, and it's not the same slider velo, and it's not the same kind of slider shape. So there's a little bit of pressure now in the rest of his career, I think, for his changeup and curve to be good. If this is the shape.
Okay.
One thing we've talked about with Strider over the years is that he is frequently among the league leaders in fastballs thrown in the heart of the plate. He just gets away with it because the velocity when we broke through was premium velocity. And the more that diminishes over time, we've seen about a tick per year going back to 2022. He averaged 98.2 on that pitch. That dropped to 97.2 in 2023, 96.3 for the brief time we saw him last year, and 95.4 on Wednesday. So I think that's where those other pitches are going to be so important. Like if he levels off at 95 these next couple of seasons, that's still really fine. It's just going to put more pressure on the change and curveball to be a bigger part of the mix than they were in that first start back. And again, it's the first start back, so you take that with the necessary grain of salt. I also wondered too, though, if we saw the two charts you're looking at if you're on YouTube or the location maps. Again, 2024 on the bottom, 2025, the start from yesterday is up on top. He elevated that fastball more consistently in his first start back. That's also, to me, really important with less velocity if he's going to use the pitch as often as he did on Wednesday.
Yeah, I think that maybe in an ideal world, he has two sliders, and he has the slider for right-handers and the slider for left-handers. That's totally possible. He throws so many sliders, he's going to have feel like that. I see two pretty distinct places on the heat map he's trying to throw the slider to. So if he has two sliders and a four seam and an improving change, there's still a peak Strider, possibly in here where he's got a more developed mix.
Yeah. So I think given the situation, not a bad return at all for Spencer Strider. Got to go 5 innings, had 5 Ks, looked at least something like himself, even if he wasn't all the way back first time out. Much needed return for Atlanta too, as they try to dig their way out of a brutal start. I mentioned the heart of the zone and then the fastballs that are being in that part of the zone too often. Justin Steele's in there a lot. Kevin Gossman's been in there a lot. If you cut that leaderboard down and just look at the last 4 seasons combined and have no pitch threshold, only look at starters, Roki Sasaki is number 1 in fastballs thrown, four-seamers thrown in the heart of the zone. 22.9% of his pitches are four-seamers that end up in the heart of the zone.
That's interesting. I don't know if that's
4 starts.
Yeah.
It hasn't been a lot, but it's just like living in the middle of the zone.
Which is not going to benefit him long-term, but you can throw splitters off that at least, or a fork ball.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's the splitter thing, maybe.
Yeah.
He just aims the middle of the zone for both, and some of them arrive in the middle of the zone, and some of them just drop off the face.
Yeah. And I think there's just we'll see where he's at in 10 starts. Yamamoto wasn't very sharp at the beginning of last year too. He had some growing pains, and this year he's looking like an absolute stud. So, and he was more polished. So, that's one of the things with him. Back to Strider real quick too. One thing I did notice, I think that, at least watching the first inning, he looked like that was pre-start. That was you only need your fastball and slider. Throwing 97, 98, and his slider was 85, 86, 87. And then after that, it kind of fell a little bit. And there's some endurance things going to happen. He's going to build through 97 pitches. That was a big deal. Also, his horizontal movement started to bump up, and his ride started to lower too over time, which means that's just like a fatigue.
His slot is lower.
His slot is lower too. So the first inning, he was 8, horizontal 20, like every time. And then by the end, he was like 15, 5, 16, 11. And that just means that you're like he's getting tired probably. So all of that, you take that into account, like that's going to probably improve. But I think that this is a really valuable time for him to learn how to pitch a little bit more. And when you mentioned how to throw to lefties, like you could see how he threw to Santander versus like Bichette. Like he was yanking the slider more to Bichette to get it off the plate, but he's trying to throw it more middle down below the zone to the lefties. He's probably aware of the way that thing is moving. which is great. I agree on the changeup too. It's got the depth. Like he might have like a little kick change thing going on, possibly. I wouldn't put it past him to just try that, because that's what a lot of people are getting. One thing that's interesting is what if there's two things maybe as the year goes that he could probably implement, because they're also kind of coming along like the Joe Boyle splinker. Like Strider could throw a splinker. It's a slightly wider grip. It's for guys that have pretty good ride, because Boyle's got pretty good ride with that natural like glass now cut. Sometimes Strider does that. He might be able to do that, or because he has that natural supination, there were sometimes when he pulls it up and away to a righty, it kind of seems like it takes off a little bit away from him. He might be able to have a little wrinkle cutter thing where he can throw low 90s at some point too. That would be interesting to see, just because he backspins the ball so well. So just tilting the axis a little bit. Like maybe those things will help him with lefties as well. But you're right. There is going to be another phase. I think we're going to enter phase 2 of a Strider kind of developing into a full pitcher.
I think that some of this, like the changeup and the curve, like I think some of this is like, I think it looks better than Gossman and Robbie Ray's tries at third pitches. You know, like at some point you're like, okay, Kevin Gossman is not going to have a great breaking ball ever. You know, you can sort of just give up. You know, it's like he's tried, and he's come to one that's okay, and that's good enough for him. And Robbie Ray, I feel like, has tried every changeup grip under the sun, and maybe it's just not going to happen for him. Strider's like less of a decided thing that he's just a fastball slider guy. There's enough here where I'm like, well, that changeup shape is different. You know, that curveball shape's a little different. So I think he might have touch to add pitches.
And to Trevor's point about fatigue likely being a big factor, as Strider sort of just gets that endurance back. I think the 9 highest velocity fastballs we saw from Strider were all in the bottom of the first inning. That's when he maxed out at 97.9. So we saw the velo tail off a little bit too, which speaks to that fatigue kind of building up a little quicker on Spencer
Nick Pollock
Strider.
even pointed out that the velo was going down, and then there was like a steal attempt, maybe they challenged it or something. That he had like a
Vladdy tried.
Vladdy tried, and he had like a moment where he got to like walk around the mound, and I guess also was feeling like, I don't have that many pitches left to throw, and I better, I want to win this game. His velo went up again. So it kind of went down, and then there was like this crisis moment in the game, and it went back up again. I don't know how to read that, but I assume that that's decent news. It's almost like a sprinter getting that third wind or whatever, where it's like, okay, now I'm closing, now I'm finishing it off. And he had that left in the tank. So I think he should follow.
I think he should follow. He should just follow the Justin Verlander model. Like that's a really good comp.
Sit lower and like
they pitch
throw harder for 2 strikes. Throw harder when you want the swing.
Pull it out when you need it, and just like be nasty with your other stuff to get ahead, like set it up, and then if the situation dictates it, go for it. I think Strider's got the same kind of temperament. Same type of pitches, like good breaking ball depth and ride is more of his thing. And Verlander learned that really early though in his career. So, and I mean, it is really early in Strider's career. He's not like, what is he, 25, 24? Yeah. He's really young. So, there's still a lot
part of Verlander's, fall drop off, by the way, is that he can't do that anymore. He's pretty much sitting 40, close to his max. That's all he's got left. He doesn't have like another level in the tank anymore. So,
which is, I'll say it, probably when you're 41, that should probably happen. You should probably fall off.
How do you have
like it's been a long run, brother. 20 years. At some point you got to be like, that's a good amount. I'm pretty good with that.
I wonder if his I do think he'll do better. Verlander in the next couple of weeks. The schedule changes, and there's some of the stuff is all right, but the fastball is not what it was, and he still pitches like the fastball is what it was. Like it's still a little bit of like, no, I still got it. Like the grandpa being like, I can still whoop your. And I just wonder if he has just like a mediocre year, is he just going to sign up for it again? I don't know.
That's a great question. Is it the competitive drive? Like, no, I can do better. I'm coming back again. Or is it
spring, he's talking about 45. He's like, I'm going to keep going. Or do you just keep going?
Him and Scherzer out of the league, guys. That's all I got to say.
That's what I feel like. Yeah. As long as someone hands me a major league contract, I'm in. Is that the rubric?
Yeah.
Some things never change, but I think you're right. I think we'll see maybe a little more willingness to make some tweaks over the course of the season, too, aside from the schedule easing up a little bit on Verlander. We talked about this last week. He's getting more swings and misses in the zone than he has in a few years. Like, there's a little bit of hope just in that alone. So we'll see what the tweaks end up being in the near future. Let's get to the story that Eno wrote with Jen McCaffrey and Britt Ghiroli. Is hitting development catching up to pitching? And the more I've thought about this, I'm like, well, yeah, like the pitching tools and information we have, it's like having chisels, and hitters are out there using hammers. And maybe the gap is beginning to close just a little bit. But where do you see the biggest shifts, as you put this piece together? Where do you feel like hitters have actually made up meaningful ground?
Well, I think the data is a big part of it. And so in 2007, we started tracking pitch movements. 2008, we started tracking pitch movements and pitch velocity. And what have we seen since that day? We've seen the proliferation of velo. We went from 91.1 the first year we tracked velo to 94.1. So like when you track it, it becomes a value that you can study and you can train for, and can become part of these sort of key performance metrics that I talk about. And so pitching has had that much of a head start where they started getting this kind of information 2007, 2008, and hitters really only started getting valuable information from public tracking networks at 2015, when we had TrackMan and they started getting exit velocity and launch angle. Now, since we've gotten exit velocity and launch angle, what hitters have done is hit the ball harder most years, hit the ball harder in the air most years. Barrel rate has become like a thing we care about, a thing we train for, So that's what was happening since 2015. Now, the newest inflection point is 2020. We put in the cameras. We put in Hawkeye. And since we've done with Hawkeye, now we have all the stuff we've been showing you on this podcast about stance information, the intercept point, the contact point, the attack angle stuff. Attack angle is coming in a few weeks, I hear. And once we have attack angle and bat speed, we will be able to do what they have already done internally for teams, which is bat path grades. And once you have a bat path grade, that's a little bit like stuff. That's like, how is he doing the right things to succeed? And teams have had this internally. And one general manager I talked to said, a few years ago, he said, we have a bat path grade, but I don't believe it. And I was like, well, that's interesting, because like you're the general manager, like, we have it, and you don't believe it. So are you training for it? Are you not? Or what are you doing with it?
Or didn't you build the team of people that made the bat path grade? Like, didn't you assemble that group of people?
And then I checked back in with him. He's like, well, it's better every year. But he's like, it still doesn't seem to match up with Stuff Plus in terms of like how good the lists are. You do a list of Stuff Plus, you're like, yeah, those guys have great stuff. You do a list of bat path grades and you're like, who's that at number 3? And so, it is a developing science, but it's become more of a science. And I think that's where the big leaps forward have been, is like, you have the Boston Red Sox out here very obviously training for bat speed. And that's a little bit like teams 5-6 years ago having the arm farms, the gas camps, that's what they used to call it. And, sending all these young guys to these gas camps to get as much velo as they could, out of their arms, and doing the weighted ball training and all that stuff. Now we have weighted bat training. So just the fact that like we got to weighted bat training, like, I don't know, 8 to 10 years after weighted ball training means that that's the gap, but they are closing it, because there's also like we talk about how little an edge works. So in this piece, we talk about torpedo bats, and literally like 2 weeks after the torpedo bat craze, the Baltimore Orioles announced that they are having a partnership with Johns Hopkins to do computer vision to better figure out their bats for all of their players. So the edge lasted 2 weeks.
And you could argue that the edge wasn't even as extreme as it appeared to be for that one series.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it looked like a bigger deal at the time than it has in the time that's passed since.
Yeah, but so the hitting edges now, like the another way to talk about it is the sweeper. The sweeper comes out, 2021. I write an article. 2022, there's more sweepers. 2023, it's a designation on Savant, and by 2025, I'm not saying the sweeper's done, but the sweeper's possibly overrated by Stuff Plus, and batters have gotten better at the sweeper year over year at swing decisions and hitting it hard. They've gotten better at the sweeper, since the sweeper came. So if that's the case, that like, kick change is going to be great for a year or two. And then the batters are going to be like, I've seen enough kick changes. I know what it looks like. I know who throws one. I know what the profile is like. I know how to look for it, and they'll get better at it. And the trajectory is part of that, I think, just doing the types of training, and then also developing these key performance metrics. So you have KPIs for pitchers that are very obvious, like stuff or, strikeouts, contact rate in the zone, or whatever it is your KPIs are. The hitting is now catching up and being like, our KPIs don't have to be like slugging or batting average. They can be exit velos, barrel rates, bat speed, and so I think that's been I think in some ways I try to set up a parallel between what pitching has done and what hitting is doing now. And they're looking more similar in terms of when you're developing them. What do? You use all the tools, use all the KPIs, and you use all the advanced data to like inform your best practices.
What do you think, Trevor? And what do you think is the most important, or what are the most important things hitters have access to now that are going to help close that gap?
Yeah, I think I think the trajectory does go a long way for building that connection between like what you're being told metrically and then what it looks like. I just had a little bit of a daydream thinking about like what Sasaki's forkball looks like in the trajectory machine, and if that machine can even replicate that. A forkball.
I mean, the trajectory does have problems, and that's an interesting one. Like Tyler Rogers, I don't think the trajectory can do that.
Oh, it can't go low enough for him. Which I don't think it can do Tim Hill either. I don't think it goes below the zero degrees. So that is one issue. But and there's certain guys that are so funky that you just like they can't replicate it, and you just got to do your best. Lucky Rogers, I guess. But all like it's funny. We see this. Kind of like how in pitching, you mentioned the velocity and stuff. The Corvelo belt was one of the early things, the force plates in the mound. They wanted to understand where velocity came from. And then once we got 10 data points that could be associated with any individual guy, then you kind of just ran down the checklist and checked out what they were. And then guys got good at, like Wes Johnson was the guy who saw it for me. And, he was one of the pioneers for a lot of these movement patterns and stuff too. So like he just looked at me and saw that this might be a thing. So that's kind of I think that now they're getting enough collection on hitters, and they're starting to analyze hitters in this way where they're getting their checklist of things to check to maximize how good that hitter is based on where they struggle or what the organization wants from them too. So if like we want you to make more contact, we're not as worried about your bat speed, especially if you're a guy who misses a lot because your bat's so fast. Like you don't struggle there. We want to make contact. Maybe it's slowing the bat down, and they have ways to do that.
Heavier bat,
like
heavier. Now they're starting to take the bat and like
if this is the issue,
we can use the bat.
We can fix it.
Yeah.
And that's happening. That's becoming much more robust, and like there's more people in the game now that are able to look at you and say, these couple things might be, let's check these out. And then they have tests to see if it's true or not. And they can do that quickly. I think that was the issue. A lot of this stuff has been developing, but like you said, they're behind because pitching was just easier to see it. It's just the ball and the spinning, and the velocity. We had these metrics that we were able to get for decades already. And we knew that we wanted higher numbers. We just didn't know how to get there yet. We're just now measuring bat speed in a way that where people are like actually know how hard they swing the bat now. I've known how hard it thrown since I was 10. Like hitters are now 30 realizing how hard they swing. And but the way this works is there's a lot of smart people. They can go from, my bat speed is this to a week later implementing a lot of this stuff because you just it doesn't need that much lag because there's a lot more information out there, which is awesome. I think that we're going to see a level of baseball. Like people talk about, oh, people can't hit a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. It's that gap between the people watching in the stands and the people playing the game is just going to get wider, and it's going to be more impressive, which I think generally is good for the game.
And strikeout rates have actually kind of plateaued. They're not getting worse. And that's interesting because fastball velo is still going up. So that's another little piece where you're like, okay, maybe this is coming to fruition now where batters do have the tools they need to kind of to battle and to get up there. And, just agreeing that bat speed is good, it might actually help us get to the point where hitters can, because if the pitchers are throwing faster and faster, maybe the batters have to be swinging faster and faster. It's like kind of makes sense that way. But there's also there is some lag time in having the data out and having what Trevor's alluding to, kind of these getting comfortable with the data, being able to transform that and translate it to the player, and then getting sort of second and third order. Because the first time we ever did force plates for hitters, we were like, oh, front foot force plate is really associated with trunk velocity and bat speed, right? That makes so much sense because it's the same thing in pitching. The amount of force you put in with your front foot has a lot to do with how much energy you can turn and how fast your arm comes around, right? So that was the first one. But I just saw a recent thing where it did the force plate analysis for high school, college, and pros. And the correlation between bat speed and front foot force into the ground was tighter in high school, less tight in college, and even less tight in the pros. And so that suggests that there's something, maybe there's a cliff. Maybe there's you need to put this much force into the ground, but then there are other things going on that separate the pros.
Then you need to stack other things on top of it. You have to generate more power everywhere else. And also as you get older or bigger, guys in the pros are just bigger, stronger, full-grown men as well. So they have stronger arms.
Right. They're getting something from their shoulders and from other
where places. The young guys might have no real, their legs are getting stronger first. But then the upper body is lagging behind, and that's probably mostly what's happening. And it's about stacking all those things together. I do want to make a prediction because this calls is kind of this is gonna be a hot take prediction here on Rates and Barrels. I don't do this often, but as I think as hitting now catches up, and the three outcomes thing was a reaction two ways. Pitchers saw that we have an advantage now, and so strikeouts are something we can go for. As that advantage closes, strikeouts are no longer as valuable, or as valuable to go for all the time. And hitters don't just need to compensate with home runs; they can hit the ball now more. So we don't have to focus on that. So now we're going to that's going to go in a big circle, and we're going to get back to these guys who are like, yeah, I throw 96, but I'm a 96 pitch to contact guy. And I'm trying to get the ground balls. And the hitters are like, I'm trying to put the ball in play because I'm not so worried about striking out as much anymore. And I can hit like this. I can go oppo. I don't need to try to hit the 3-run home run because it's really hard to hit. Right. So we're just going to get back to that golden age that everyone talks about all the time, where it's more pitching and hitting's more even. It's just the reason it was like that is because pitching discovered some stuff and gave them, and the gap widened for a while, but now we see that gap coming back together and the game's going to become more complete again. I think a lot of those things are going to solve themselves. I think we're going to go back, not to Greg Maddux throwing 9 inches off the plate and getting a call. That's never coming back, but people trying to do that will come back more. We'll try to hit that edge and work on freezing guys and try to get them to push and pull off and on, like the Roy Halladay, that type of pitching. Even if you're throwing 96, 97, you're going to have to do it because 96, 97 could be hit more.
That's true. And I think that's actually a pretty good segue to our how would you pitch a guy, because this guy that we want to talk about, Jacob Wilson, is like a throwback. I mean, he's swings at everything and puts it all in play, and we've seen a little bit with Luis Arias and Stephen Kwan and other guys before, but right now, I don't know. It feels like we're in the middle of Jacob Wilson. You can't get him out, or at least you can't strike him out. I don't know. Is this the future of hitting? Is this Do you
I
need
think
to
he's
like
an
stack a little?
extreme.
Yeah, he's an extreme. You need to
He's
stack a
definitely
little
gonna
power on
be-
top of this.
And he does have a couple homers. He's just one of those guys like, the up and in box is the only place he hits the ball hard enough to get it out of the park. So like you just don't. And to be honest, Arias, same thing, down and in though. He's a lefty. So like if you avoid down and in, he's not going to take you deep, but he might flip it into left quickly. The thing about Jake, and I think it's important to mention, he is a legacy. Jack Wilson is his dad. Another guy who was good at putting the ball in play and also shortstop. So he learned this somewhere as well. Like a lot of the dads are coming, guys who played in that golden era we're talking about. Now their sons are coming up and playing like they did, which is understandable, makes a lot of sense. But I do like watching the kid because I love seeing the ball put in play. But the interesting thing is, we were talking about this when we were getting ready for this show. Let's see how he develops his a more of a big league approach and where he chooses his spots a little bit more. I mean, Arias is still really aggressive, but he's definitely Arias will take walks. He relishes if he gets 0-2 and works a walk. He loves that as much as hitting a single. Like he's like, yeah, I'm good at this. And Wilson does not have that. That's not something he's trying to do.
He's swinging at everything. Yeah,
he's swinging at everything. So like, Williams Astudillo is my comp right now because the guy had 4,000 minor league at bats and struck out less than 100 times and walked like 101 times. Like he didn't do either one at all. And he was great bat to ball skills, but you could not pinch hit the kid because he's going to walk up and he's going to hit a ball an inch off the ground the first pitch and roll over. And you're like, dude, we need you to like at least get 2 balls on you so you can get a good pitch. But he just liked to swing and hit. So it's going to be interesting to see how he develops that, especially if he's going to be in a lineup where it has more pop around him. We got Soderstrom leading the league in homers, which is awesome. By the way, if he turns into Olsen, by the way, again, I'm going to be so blown away. I don't know what I don't know how the A's do this, but if he turns into a guy who hits 30 plus every year somehow, I'm just going to throw my hands in the air. I don't know what's going on.
I do think their hitting development is all right. I mean, they've done pretty good in the past with hitting development. I think Bush is a pretty good hitting coach, and so.
I think so too.
Wilson though, like this, I laughed when I saw this. This is Jacob Wilson's contact percentage on the left, swing percentage in the middle, and average on balls in play on the right. They're all the same thing. So. At least on some level, he's making the right decisions, right? Like he's swinging at pitches that he can make contact on, that he can put balls in play that are successful. So that part is good. What I don't get so far is that looking at these heat maps, I don't get why people aren't throwing him high in the zone more or low and inside more, because those seem like, places he doesn't necessarily want to swing. But it also, we know that he swings at everything, so they're not pitching him there. So you did have a little thing about high and tight. You say that he can hit the high and tight for power.
Yeah, his 2 home runs are both a little bit higher and tighter to him. And all of his extra base hits, I believe, are up there. That's where his highest WOBA is.
But look straight across his belt on where he's being pitched right now, and there's not that much above it. No. I would be throwing more high fastballs up there. Maybe it's dangerous because if they come in, then he can maybe hit it for a homer. And also low and inside, you have a video, don't you? Of this slide. I would say this slider is pretty close to low inside. I mean,
I wanted to see
like,
I figured big league pitchers can do more in the shadow zone than other pitchers Jacob Wilson has seen up to this point in his baseball career. And I thought, okay, you're going to beat him somewhere around the edges, right? He has 1 swinging strike this season in the shadow zone, and it's on a low slider. Victor Vodnik got him.
He's so mad he missed it. Yeah, he's so mad he missed it.
I really should have dropped a frame hold in there because he was irate about that. And I think this is a strange profile for all the reasons you mentioned. I love that Williams Astudillo. I haven't thought about Williams Astudillo in a couple of years, so I'm glad he's back on the brain. But take that player and make him a good major league shortstop too. That's an interesting real life player to have. And if you have other guys that hit for power, the question is going to come down to probably becoming a little more patient, like luring pitchers to keep testing him further and further away from the zone, and then drawing walks off of that. And I'm not sure how you project that. how do you see that from a scouting perspective? Do you see Jacob Wilson as a guy that will consistently hit 280 plus, but eventually walk 8% of the time and carry a good enough OBP where you actually like him as a contact heavy table setter in front of your bigger bats? Like, is that where he eventually kind of settles in? Or is he the guy that because he can hit so many pitches, he will always try to hit everything and he's just going to keep that K rate as low as possible, regardless of what happens with the walk rate and the OBP?
It's tough. If he doesn't improve the walk rate, it's hard to, if you think about a lineup and how they're constructed, like that's a 6, 7, 8 hitter, like because you just can't count, because if he goes into a slump and he's hit 250, he's going to be at 260 on base. It's like he's going to be Unieski Betancourt. Like you can't. There's a name drop for you.
Without running into homers
times in a year and 700. Yeah, without running into homers. So like you either need to, if you don't walk, you have to hit for juice. It's not something that you can count on with him. And you can't really lead off because you're not getting on enough. So like, but he's a leadoff profile in every other way, or like a top of the order, and you can't hit him second because you need more production there for RBIs.
He's pretty good for like a 5th, 6th hitter though. Like it's, guy coming up with guys on base, but yeah, he might hit you some double plays then too.
Exactly. So like, it's what kind of production will you get, and where does he profile? And he's got such good bat to ball skills. You want him batting 6. He's one of your better, you know what I mean? So like it's something he's going to have to add. He's going to have to add the ability to be willing to walk. That's going to have to be part of his thing. But if you're a guy who hits 290, 300, and then you can add, 60 points or 70 points on OBP, like you're a nightmare. Like you're a nightmare to face. If he adds, he's this close. And I just want to touch on one other thing that just occurred to me: throwing him up in the zone more. The thought process. Guys who throw up in the zone and throw up in the zone regularly, Spencer Strider's a great example. We've already talked about him a lot. And I did it. I only threw up in the zone with fastballs. You do that because you feel good about a swing and miss, as opposed to when you're throwing sinkers down in the zone, you're like, this could be a miss, but it'll probably be a ground ball. You're not trying to give up a pop-up like with you're not, because you know that fastballs, especially ride fastballs, they get swung under sometimes, yeah, but they also get barreled if they're slightly lower. So like it's just a high risk situation. So you throw up there a lot when you're confident that some of them are going to be swing and miss. Then you got a guy who's swung and missed 0.5% of the time, and you're like, well, I'm not confident this is going to be a swing and miss, so why would I throw this pitch up here all the time? I'm just going to throw my breaking balls because he's just going to hit it on the ground. So they're just like, he's not going to. Basically, guys are like, okay, this guy does not.
Why should I give a contact guy a fly ball? Like it could.
Why give him a chance to go deep?
Yeah.
Why? Like there's no point when he's just going to probably hit a single, best case scenario with the breaking ball. So I'm just going to throw him a bunch of breaking balls.
His exit velocity in the zone. His exit velocity graphs are a little bit different from this. You saw that he's good away, and he does have a nice exit velocity mid away. When I wanted to pitch him inside, I guess one of the reasons they're not pitching him low and inside is his best exit velos are actually low and inside. So he does have a lot of things in common with the Rise, in that he can drop the hammer on the bat. And so if you're looking at exit velocity holes, actually in on the hands, he's good high and middle, but in on the hands is a missing one, and low and away, like all the way down and away, except he makes contact on those pitches. And if he makes 75-mile-an-hour contact on the pitch and you don't want that contact, you don't want to pitch there either. So yeah, there is a chance for him to kind of put this together where he knows where his happy zones are, and he waits a little bit to make contact in the happy zones, and then he can always go to his 2-strike battle it out approach with 2 strikes. You know what I mean? But I think the thing for him is to kind of wait out something that he can drive early.
Take your shots.
And yeah, take
the opposite of New Bar. New Bar needs to swing sometimes.
Yeah,
he takes everything. He needs to go the other way. But like both guys, that's kind of the. Yeah, take
it's shots. Like the A swing thing, like get in his ear and be like, "Hey, can you wait on a pitch that you can put your A swing on? Like, can you like nitro zone? Like, think nitro for at least until 1 strike."
Yeah,
and then after that, you do your battle.
With Trevor's bold prediction earlier, and wondering, is the future prototype hitter more like Jacob Wilson? I think our consensus answer would be no, probably not that extreme. That's still going to be an outlier, even as contact maybe becomes a bigger part of the typical hitter's profile. Is Kristian Campbell maybe the prototype, the bat that every team's going to want to try and replicate in these next 10 years?
Oh, I mean, the story here is you've got an athletic dude who makes a ton of contact and has a great eye at the plate in college. And what do? You train the heck out of bat speed for him. And his ISOs went from 150, 170 in the complex league and A ball to 220, 250 in high A ball. And now he's got a 200 ISO in the big leagues. And that's the dream, is that you're taking somebody who already has great bat to ball and you give him bat speed, and that's everything you need. But I think that the future is also a little bit in Fernando Tatis Jr., who had an A swing and came up doing his A swing every time he could and hit 42 homers and struck out 28% of the time. Now, when you look at his distribution of bat speeds, he has 2 or 3 swings. And that's like the idea of, I have 2 or 3 bats. I have I'm tired bat, in my holster. I have and the swings are the same way. I have the A swing, I have the B swing, I have the C swing. I'm getting the best advanced scouting, and Tatis cuts his strikeout rate. So the future is somewhere in between. Take the guy who does the A swing every time and coach him into, 2-strike philosophy and this and that, and find ways to cut the K rate, or take the guy who has great bat to ball and add bat speed and add power to it. It's the same way as we can take Will Warren and find a way to add a usable four seam, to this equation, or, take the sinker slider guy and either add a four seam or add a curveball, whatever it is, or we take the over the top guy and we give him a splitter, or we give him something that has a little bit of wiggle. We give him like the Frankie Montas. We give him a sinker with seam shift awake to give him something that moves differently. So that's the future. It's both things. It's taking Jacob Wilson and saying, how do we coach up your power? Is it bat speed training, or is it a swing training? That sort of stuff. Because there was no one pitcher of the future once we got this data. It was more about, how do we take Trevor May and make him better, and less about how do we make Trevor May into Jacob deGrom. It's not happening. Sorry, Trevor.
I mean, I was once called a dollar store version of Jake Rom. I'll take it.
Oh, there you go.
Same sentence. But it was right. He's like, yeah, you throw everything he throws just 5 miles an hour slower, and guys hit him more. I'm like, yeah, and we give up the same number of home runs. He's like, that's true. Yeah, you guys both give up bombs. Thanks, Jane. Thanks, Mac. Appreciate you. I'll never forget that.
It was a pitching coach that said that to you.
No, it was James McCann.
Oh, okay. Oh, your catcher said that to you.
Yeah, the catcher told it.
I do think about the different swings, like A swings, B swings, and C swings, kind of like, fastballs, breaking balls, and off speed. You just need to have different tools in your toolbox, different situational things you can apply. Maybe your A swing is your primary good thing, and you're going to strike out a lot, but you're going to get to a lot of power. But as long as you're not hopeless with 2-strike situations, I think that gives you a longer term chance of sticking around and being a productive player. So maybe that's the pivot, like you said, just adding a little bit more to the approach, but also the swing types. Maybe finding different ways to get to the pitches that are more problematic is also the part of the answer in all of this. You guys want to answer this mailbag question about Gavin Williams?
Absolutely.
All right. Manny wants to know, what's wrong with Gavin Williams? I think that was a dark horse Cy Young pick, or a bold prediction Cy Young pick for Eno just a few weeks ago. And hey, there's still plenty of time, but it's not the start you were hoping for with a prediction like that, Eno. So what's been the issue so far? I think the first start I saw from Gavin Williams was the Royals start, the very first weekend of the season. He looked good that day. I have not actually watched any of his starts since then as closely as that one. But what are you seeing in Williams that's kept him from clicking so far?
I don't know. The sweeper may not be the best move for him. He does not have the kind of traditional arm slot of a sweeper. And so I think he's actually still kind of searching for the ideal slider. He'd said that he threw a cutter last year that was 91, and he hasn't really thrown it yet this year. And I'm wondering why, because he has told some people that the cutter will come out over the course of the year. But I think a hard cutter would do him wonders. In terms of where his fastball is, it's just about where it was last year. It has more vertical break and more velo. So I'm happy with his work on the fastball. And I thought everything would go where the fastball goes. But I don't know that this is the perfect mix for him. I think he should break out the cutter again. And so I want to reserve any doomsday predictions, until I see that cutter. As is, I do think he can just be better than he is right now. I don't think he needs to have a 12% walk rate. I don't think that's who he's been in the past. And I don't think this home run rate is necessarily where he's at either. So I would expect the home runs and the walks go down, but I don't know that the strikeouts will go up until he throws that hard breaking ball again.
That's what I'm saying. Just quickly, to be honest, I haven't seen him throw. I think I was there for his debut. And I remember being like, that's the big boy. He throws pretty hard. And then, about 4 or 5 innings in, his velo dropped 3 or 4 miles an hour. And he does tend to kind of lose velo as starts go. But his fastball that he throws over half the time is hard. He's averaging 97 on it this year, but it just doesn't get mishit much. He's got a 19% whiff rate. He had a 22% whiff rate on it last year. To have a four seam that has fairly good ride at 13, it's got 13 of vertical drop on according to Savant, but he does have too much horizontal. You remember you told me about Schwellenbach told you hey, I need it to be straighter. I need to be straighter from throwing it up in the zone. And he's got one of those 2-plane high fastballs that are easier to put the bat on. Without that, with that, you got to have really good off-speed pitches, which you made a great point, and I see it here. He's searching. He's just what's my pitch that guys can't? What's my elite pitch? He doesn't have one. Even though the sweeper is being whiffed 44% time this year, it's not. The sweeper's not a pitch you can just throw every go to
right.
Time.
He needs to reduce the as much as the fastball is good, he needs to reduce that percentage. You're right, 55% is too much.
Got to find a way to reduce that. Yes, 100%, and that's where he's getting hurt, and that's why it's just kind of you're watching. You're this is good stuff, but it's just kind of underwhelming. It's because he's still searching for that. When I have a good one of these breaking balls, then the fastball plays better. When I'm locating the fastball well, then my breaking ball, I can go to this other pitch well. And he just hasn't gotten that kind of continuity going yet because he's still searching for that, whatever his breaking ball or his even changeup, whatever it is, whatever his off speed at pitch is going to be, he's still searching for what it's going to be long term. That's why he's got different pitches every year.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. But it also, there's some hope there. It's well, what if he just takes last year's 91 mile an hour cutter and puts it back in this mix? Yeah. Can he throw the cutter and sweeper at the same time? I feel like those mechanics are different enough. In fact, the sweeper mechanics are probably closer to his curve mechanics, and he's right now throwing the sweeper and curve. So having a cutter in there doesn't seem like it would screw with anything except maybe his fastball mechanics, but we want him to throw fastball less anyway. So I think there's a solution for him. The velo being the best he's had in the major league so far is, I think, a good sign. He's out there. He's healthy. I think he's a hold, in all formats, because I still see this opportunity even this year to maybe even just take a pitch that he just threw last year and add it to this mix and take off from there. And having him say that, yes, I will throw the cutter at some point this year is I'm okay, now's the time. I don't know what you're waiting for. Maybe you were hoping to dominate out of the gate, and then this would be your second act. But at this point, it's no, all hands on deck. Let's do better than this.
The best, I'm looking at it too. The best most, at least by run value, the most productive pitch he's ever thrown was 2023, his slider, and they hit 157 against it.
And that was a hard slider. What happened? Right?
It was an average 85 miles an hour, somewhere between his sweeper. It was a sweeper and then last year's cutter or his slider was 89, had 8 inches less drop, and the same. I'm why'd you change it? What happened?
Yeah, because he could either add the 2023 slider or the 2024 cutter. I want either one of those back in the mix.
I'm just interested. He's a guardian, so like they have great pitching development there. I'm like, how is he implementing? He seems like he's the only one who's been implementing information either incorrectly or they just keep getting it wrong with him, but everybody else is figuring their stuff out like immediately. So it seems like maybe there's like miscommunication happening here. Because he's changing things, like everything he's changing is the thing he had best from the year before. I don't understand, because all
you can't say that he has
better.
no feel for spin, right? Like his curveball is a pitch he's had since he was drafted. The curveball is that forever. And
he's tried every breaking ball. If you put them all together, then he's Seth Lugo. But
maybe you can't throw them all
that kind of feel for spin
all together. But yeah.
But
it's interesting.
Pick one from your smorgasbord, dude. Like add it to the curveball. The curveball's been there forever, and the curveball's good, and the curveball he's happy with. It's the harder version of that he hasn't settled on. And I think curveball, sweeper, those things are kind of similar in a way. Find a hard breaking ball. I want the 89 mile an hour gyro slider cutter thing. I want that.
Yeah, it would fill in a little bit of space velo-wise, too. That would be, I think, part of the way of keeping timing thrown off for opposing hitters. It's a 2-start week coming in fantasy against the Yankees and Red Sox. Gets them both at home, though, so it's going to be kind of a good test week for people who've been losing the faith.
That is tough. I like him at home. I don't like those offenses, but I think they can be pitched to. I think in 15-teamers, I'd be throwing them.
Yeah, in 12s, you're looking closely at your next best option, trying to just hold them on the bench and see how it goes, I think, before you turn them loose. All right, more career strikeouts. John Smoltz or Greg Maddux? Don't think about it.
Oh, Greg Maddux.
He's thinking about it.
Yes. More career homers. Gary Pendleton or Ron Gant?
Ooh, Ron Gant.
Yeah, you're thinking too much. Two for two.
Okay, you're disappointed because this is really my wheelhouse and I should know these things.
More career B-WAR, Jose Ramirez or Giancarlo Stanton?
Why is it not Jose Ramirez?
Is that your answer?
Oh, because Stanton's been around longer? No, it's Jose Ramirez.
Yeah, 3 for 3. Hey, look. All right, we found a trivia game that Eno can play. All right, Trevor, lower career ERA, Felix Hernandez or Randy Johnson?
Felix.
No, Randy Johnson.
Randy, really?
Yeah, I was surprised by that one. More career homers, Mike Cameron or Brett Boone?
Mike Cameron.
Yeah, it's Cameron. More career B-WAR, Aaron Judge or Francisco Lindor?
Francisco Lindor.
Judge. I was surprised by that one, too.
I thought Lindor came up in, 15?
Lindor's definitely played more years.
Lindor's played more games. So
I just couldn't remember how many more. He needed more years. I was pretty clear, but I didn't know if it was like 3 or 4 more years. Maybe he'd have the edge. But
all right, yeah. Well, we're gonna call that game ambushed. I'm never gonna say we're playing it ahead of time. It's just gonna happen randomly. But the main premise is just don't think about it. If I just ask you a question like that,
you know why I'm better? I'm a little better at that. Is you're telling me the names, and so at least I can. Like go through if you tell me the names, I can go through the Rolodex of stats that I can remember some of. If you just tell me stats, I don't look players up and be like, maybe that could be my practice for name that dude is just like look at someone's stats and try to decide who it is.
Your random player name recall is like the Beyond section of Bed Bath & Beyond. You're just out there. God knows where.
Yeah, exactly.
I also read bios and register what weird teams they were. That's the type of stuff that I remember about.
I've just actually added that to my pregame. When I go in, usually when I go in to talk to a players, it's almost all numbers based where it's oh, you have the best stuff plus on sliders in baseball. Did you know that? Or oh, you throw the most high four seamers or you throw the most high slider, whatever it is. There's some little thing that I want to talk to them about that comes from the stat thing. And I usually that's my thing. I've researched something. Oh, all these pitches are different. Like Mackenzie Gore, all your pitches are different this year. How did you do that? But what I've been doing is last thing as I'm running out the door, I just throw up their Wikipedia page now and just try to read through and be like, oh, he went to college there or he didn't go to, because I can't make the stupid mistake of being like, oh, did you learn that in college? And they'd be like, I didn't go to college. And be like, oh yeah, I knew that. So at least I want to like have Wikipedia to be like, he went to college. Where did he go to college? Maybe there's like he went to college in Georgia. Like I can tell him that I grew up in Georgia. You know what I mean? Like there's like, just so I know some basic facts about their life, so I don't stumble into some idiotic things. So hopefully that'll help me on more modern Name That Dudes. But maybe I could do that going back for some practice from Name That Dudes, just like look through older people's Wikipedia pages and be like, oh yeah.
Practice for Name That Dude however you want. I don't think any of it's going to be effective, but maybe it'll help you in other aspects of your life. I don't think you can do anything to get better at that game. I think it's just a natural, natural sort of thing. That's my hunch anyway. Let us know what you think in the Discord. You can find us on Bluesky. Trevor is I am Trevor May @bsky.social. Eno is Sarris.bsky.social. I'm DVR.bsky.social. That's going to do it for this episode of Rates and Barrels. We're back with you on Friday.
Thanks for listening.